We went off on a weird tangent, but that's okay.
Sorry.
It's our podcast. Back to the first book. Tell Me I'm Pretty was the novella, which was, well, you read the story, but very interesting. Why was that always the idea to make that story a novella? Or was it?
Yeah. Tell Me I'm Pretty was always supposed to be the novella. I love the idea of collections being anchored by a novella. All of the best collections that I've read, they seem to have one novella in them. And in that case, I had this idea. I was staying at a friend's house, and the house was very much like the one in the story.
Yep.
And I just couldn't. I had these thoughts. I was there by myself. My girlfriend wasn't staying with me, and I was puppy sitting.
Right.
And I just had these late nights, and I was hanging out, and I was like, "Oh, this would be creepy if this happened." And that's kind of where that came from. But yeah, and then it turned into a novella. I didn't think it was going to be a short story. I didn't think it was going to be a full book. I didn't know where it was going to go, but it turned out to be perfect novella length.
Yeah, that was first person point of view. And
yeah.
It takes you for a ride. It's like, oh wow, this is where it's going. A different take on a genre everybody is familiar with. I won't say. You got to read the book.
Thank you.
And of course, one of my favorites was What Would Batman Do? That was so cool. Told from the point of view of a child who idolized Batman, and wow, the way the story went was very Batman-like. Where did that come from?
I've had the idea of, and I sort of am playing with it again. I guess it's kind of a theme that I love, the idea of children solving a very serious adult crime in some way. And I actually just did a really strong rewrite of that story, What Would Batman Do? And I think it's even better now. So I'll send that to you so you could read it if you liked it. Yeah. So, I was thinking, people wear like the "What would Jesus do?" They say, "What would Jesus do?" Blah blah blah, stuff like that or whatever. And in my head, I'm like, well, what would Batman do? Like he's, So I like the idea of this little kid taking a local mystery into his own hands and effectively solving it. Whether he really solves it or if some other thing helps him solve it, I don't know. But that's an idea that I had when I was in high school to tell a story like that, and it's always just kind of stayed with me, the idea of a little kid solving an adult mystery.
I want you to tell all your friends about me.
I remember when I was a little kid too, I had, we all had them. We all had like our superhero. If you were a superhero fan when you were a child, you had like a cape that you would wear, or you had like, in the case of me with Batman and stuff, I had like little trinkets I had a ninja star that I thought was like my Batarang, and I got it from my cousin because he was like a karate guy, and he had ninja stars and he gave them to me. I had a little gun that had a fist on the end of it. I was like, this will be cool. I could punch people with this. It was like a little dumb plastic thing. But I had like all these cool toys, and I had a Batman utility belt. And I remember thinking like, I'm going to go out and solve a crime with all this. And I hid it away in a crawl space that was in my old bedroom when I was a kid. I opened it up and I put it in there, and then we had new carpeting put in the following week, and they sealed the carpeting over the crawl space entry. So all of my stuff is still in that crawl space.
Oh,
all my crime fighting gear.
Your micro bat cave crawl space. Your bat crawl space, right? Oh, yeah. Man. Yeah, I had a Superman. Well, Mom made me a Superman outfit from scratch. See? It was pretty cool. And I think I had a Spider-Man thing that I just threw together with a bunch of pajamas and drew stuff on it to make it look like webs. I remember that. Wow.
It's literally what he did. Yeah. So
very cool story.
Thank you.
And the Thunderbirds was an interesting one. Is that a folklore thing you came up with, or is that something that's out there?
No, that's a legitimate thing on the Hudson River. Ship's captains who know are supposed to salute the mountains over there, because there are legends that there are gremlins and goblins and stuff in that area, and they will sink your ship if you don't salute them and give them the homage that they deserve. So so it is a real thing. I remember hearing that story when I was a kid, when I went to Sunnyside in Sleepy Hollow, and they tell these amazing ghost stories in the woods and stuff. And this guy, amazing storyteller, he's still there nowadays. He told the story of that, and I was like, oh my God, that's real? That's like, that happens all the time? Mm-hmm. I was like 6 when I heard that.
Oh, it stuck. It's a weird name, Thunderbirds. You wouldn't think that sounds goblin-y or gremlin-y, but...
Yeah. Weird, right? But you can look it up. It is very much a thing, and Washington Irving himself was very obsessed with the notion of it, because Sunnyside overlooks those mountains. I forget what the mountains are called. I think the mountains are called like the Thunderbirds, or I know the story's called the Thunderbirds, but I think the mountains are called that too. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he literally has this beautiful back porch that overlooks the Hudson, and they're right there. Those mountains are right there. And he wrote about that legend too, I think. I'm pretty sure. At the very least, he touched upon it during the Rip Van Winkle story.
Righteous. We're going to take a little detour because you got to publish a collection for another author who is a guest on the show. Thanks for recommending him. Michael Jess Alexander. He released the book Boarded Windows, Dead Leaves, and it was on Spooky House Press. How did you meet him?
He contacted me through the Spooky House Press website, actually. He sent an email through our contact form, and we just struck up a conversation. He sent me his collection. I was floored by it. I think every story in that collection is brilliant. And I think he's an amazing, brilliant writer. And I know that that's like kind of a term that gets thrown around, but I legitimately feel that way. I think Michael is, and he and I are very similar. We're both English teachers. We're both around the same age and whatnot. And he's, I just think his craft is at another level. I think I compare him a lot to this author, and he'll probably listen to this and hear this and be tired of hearing it. But he reminds me so much of the author Brian Evanson. It breaks my heart. It's crazy because I love Brian Evanson, and all I'd want to do is to write like him. But Michael already does it. It's like, damn it, it's just so good. Oh. And I just think Michael's incredible, and he's such a nice guy. He's just such a sweet dude. He's a family man. Yeah. He's a great guy, and you wouldn't know it, like talking to him face to face kind of thing, like you did it. Yeah. He doesn't seem like, oh, I'm a horror guy.
No.
Right? Like, you know me, so you know that I love horror and stuff like that. But him, he's like, I love time with my family, and I'm a teacher, and I'm just a genuinely nice guy. And then he writes terrifying, heart-stopping horror that's so mind-numbingly good, it kills me.
And what was it like to publish his collection and say, add this to Spooky House family? Yeah. Yeah.
It was a tremendous honor. It was awesome that he wanted to do that with us. It was really a blessing. And I think about it all the time, how lucky I am to have been able to publish his book. And it's opened some doors to some other authors. We have some other people's work that have been sent. Okay. And I promise I will get to those things when I can. But we're working on another project right now with another author, and she's also an artist. So we're doing something a little different. It's not horror-based, but it is funny. So just a lot of opportunities, and it was really all thanks to, I would say, Michael's book was the first big project we tackled that we were super passionate about. That other than, we did my book, but also to do his book is just something else entirely, and it was so much fun. And working with him step by step through the process was a lot of fun too. So like I don't know, maybe I'm not supposed to rope the authors into every single step of the process, but like I would want to know. I'm not crazy hands-on guy. I don't need to micromanage things or whatever. But like, yeah, I feel like because he's the writer, I don't want him to be sideswiped by, oh, here's the cover, and if he hates it, you know, or like, hey, here's the size of the book that we're thinking, and he hates that. So I want to work with our authors to kind of make them as happy as we can, and make sure that they have a positive experience with us. So I think he's happy. I hope he's happy. He says he is. So I hope so. And his book is just so wonderful too. It looks awesome too. Like just visually, it's so cool. Just the cover is so great. The cover artist Danny just did such an amazing job, and I don't know. It's just perfect. He's won 2 awards for it
already.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Very well deserved, and they're really fantastic. He's God, those stories are so good.
Yeah,
I think about his one all the time. Chatterbox is. And who knows that that's my favorite of the stories that he wrote, but I think about it all the time, and I'm like, God damn it, I wish I wrote that.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was something.
God.
He has a real good way of telling a story.
Yeah.
Sure. So now he's part of the Spooky House family. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Many more authors to come. I can feel it.
Hell yeah.
But now we have another book that's added to the Spooky House Press collection, your second anthology called Her Infernal Name and Other Nightmares.
Yes, sir.
Just came out last week.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it did. So, first off, you said there was a story that you were leaving out of People and you were going to include it in the second book. Did you do that?
I did.
And
Yeah.
which story was that?
That was the Nebulous They. That's the story that didn't quite make it to the first collection.
I could see why now. Yes. That didn't seem to fit that. So that made it... Well, now you had to up the ante. Your first book was 189 pages. Now this one was 258 pages. Why so many more?
I just couldn't stop with the novella. The novella is really... I started writing that for an open call, and it just kept going and going, and it ended up being like 80-something pages. Yeah. And I couldn't stop with it. I was just so into it as I was writing it. So some of the stories in there are like 2 pages or 4 pages, and then other ones are 20-something, and then the novella is like 80. So I'm kind of all over the place with the page count in this one. But yeah, I just had a lot more to say, I think, in this one than in the first one. If the first one's about me exercising my feelings regarding my dad, this one is about me exercising my fears. And had a lot more of those, I think, in the past however long it's been since I started writing this one to now.
That gives me a whole different perspective, that this was mostly your fears.
What were you thinking originally?
No, I just, I said, we wanted to make this one a little more grittier, a little more... Well, I think the 2 stories are the most graphic out of all of them. The rest of them are really more... There's a lot of psychological, a lot of... There's some out there stuff, too, but I mean, there's even some alien encounter stuff addressed. So you cover a lot of ground there. But
thank you, yeah.
He only had one first-person point of view story. Called Sugar Bowl.
Yes, the Sugar Bowl.
This time he, so you said we want to do that third person for this mostly, right? And
I did, yeah. I think that was the headspace I was in because I had started reading a lot more third person than I had been reading first, and I was reading, going into this, I had read, I mentioned him before, but I'll mention him again. I had read Brian Evanson's Song for the Unraveling, or Song of the Unraveling of the World, and all of his stuff is third person, for the most part, I believe. And it just really left an impression on me. John Langan's Saphira and Other Betrayals had left a pretty strong impression on me as well. And a lot of that's third person, or all of it might be third person. So those 2 guys, I was like, okay, yeah, this is it. Third person's the way to go. And that's what I was focused on. And then I had to return to first person for the other thing. But yeah, I have the one, like you said, in this one that's first person.